A little bird told me, when we consider all the proper texts that are incorporated into the Mass and offices during the church year, it's clear the liturgy needs a lot of music. Many items in the various services are framed by introductory or closing bits of music. Thousands and thousands of chant melodies were composed to fill these various functions. The creation of this chant repertory was a long, slow process unfolding over numerous centuries. But during the Middle Ages, a belief arose that all chants were the product of one man, Pope Gregory. Gregory created all the chants, the Roman Pope at the end of the 6th century. According to the legend, God took the form of a dove, perched on the Pope's shoulder, singing the various chants to Gregory, who wrote them down for posterity. And from this legend, we get the saying, "A little bird told me." So here is the myth. There's Gregory the First, little bird singing in his ear, and it's the one who writes down all these chants. Although we know this legend is purely myth, it's still conventional to refer to the chants as Gregorian chant. However, many people use the term plain chant to avoid perpetuating this fictional tale and to differentiate it from other kinds of chants. By the 9th century, the Catholic Church had amassed a huge body of chant. The cumulative effect of these various tunes during each service was beautiful, in keeping with Augustine's belief that the music should intensify the devotional impact. But church had a problem. Only way melodies could be remembered was by memorizing them, and no system existed yet. A contemporary of Pope Gregory, St. Isidore of Seville, acknowledges that unless sounds are held in memory by man, they perish because they cannot be written down. Although most of the tunes were not too complicated, the challenge came from the chants that were proper. If you didn't sing it on a daily basis and only used it once a year, good chance you would forget it. Trained singers can memorize hundreds, perhaps thousands of chants, but it's easy to understand how discrepancies would creep in from year to year. So they create neumes here. Moreover, as the church expanded its geographical control, it wanted worshippers in far-flung towns to sing the exact tunes. But it's hardly possible to train enough singers to be sent out to those distant lands. Not only would they have to carry the vast array of chant melodies, but then every tune would have to be taught to the local singers in each community, and then they would have to memorize it all. So not having deviation was going to be impossible. So there is an innovation. The solution to the church's problem was notation, a system of symbols that represented musical sounds. Notation was undoubtedly the most important musical innovation of the first 1,000 years following the death of Christ. Notation, although it would take several centuries to develop symbols we use today. So notation, when Pepin III and his son Charlemagne wanted Roman chants to become standard religious repertory, copies of the words were made and distributed, but it was evident that melodies were not consistent. Alcuin's push for literacy and his zeal for writing things down seems to have helped motivate the first experiments with musical notation. This system was called neumes, and they were depicted the general contour of a musical phrase, arise, descent, up and down. They weren't precise. They were just reminders to singers who'd already learned the melody. And these neumes start appearing in various 9th century manuscripts. It is probably apparent that these neumes don't tell the whole story. The virga, for instance, is meant to be a relatively higher pitch, but how much higher? A whole step, a minor third. The earliest neumes would not suffice when a singer is trying to learn a new melody. They're helpful in jogging the memory. So the next breakthrough in the history of musical notation was devised 2 centuries later by a famous singing teacher called Guido of Arezzo. Like many teachers, he wrung his hands at the occasional shortcomings of his students, and in one document he complains that of all men, singers are the most foolish. Still, Guido had built a reputation throughout Italy for being able to teach singers new chants quickly, so he was summoned to Rome by the Pope to explain his methods. His secret? He'd invented the staff. He invents the staff. The lines that allow composers to position pitches in a visual relationship, like steps on a ladder. He still used neumes, but they were now referred to as heightened neumes, since the pitches were clarified by how high or low they were placed on the staff. Guido himself only used two staff lines. He identified them not only with the letter C or F, but also different colors of ink. F was red, C was yellow. Over the centuries, letters evolved into the clef symbols we use today. And although five-line staff began to be used in the 12th century, it took a long time to become standard. In fact, some composers preferred six lines. Modes and the Guidonian hand. Guido's famous teacher didn't rest solely on the invention of the staff. He's also credited with developing the practice of associating the pitches of a scale with syllables, a system still widely used. Most people have heard this major scale sung as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. His system focused only on the first six steps, so it's called a hexachord. And instead of using the syllable do, his starting note was ut. These syllables are collectively called psalmization syllables. In France, it's called solfege, whereas Italians use the word solfeggio, and in England, the practice is known as solfa. Guido taught his schoolboys to sing a hymn to St. John called Ut queant laxis, so that tongues might loosen. Ingenious feature of the hymn is that each successive phrase began with a subsequent solemnization syllable and the associated pitch. So it starts with fa, and then it ends, and then it's going to end with so, and etc., etc., etc. We don't know with confidence that Guido of Arezzo composed the melody, but it wasn't known before his lifetime and it reflects his typical ingenuity. We do know that his educational essay, Micrologus, Little Treatise, was the earliest comprehensive manual on various technical aspects of musical theory. His educational essay. The Micrologus was widely read in medieval monasteries and universities up to the 15th century. At least 70 handwritten copies still survive. His careful guidance earned him recognition as the first practical theorist whose focus was not on abstract considerations of the cycles of the cosmos, but rather on the pragmatic challenges of reading and performing music. Guido's name has been linked with a mnemonic device, that's a memory device, that assisted vocalists in singing accurate notes. As discussed in section 1, each scale is a different collection of pitches. In the C major scale, all the notes are natural, but in the F major scale, the pitch B needs to be played or sung as B. I'm going to guess that's flat. I have no idea. Sharp, whatever. In order to sound correct to our ears. Combining the hand with the solemnization syllables, a singer could tell which version of B was needed. For instance, looking at the pinky in figure 2.6, if a finger started on F and traveled along that finger, the fourth note of the fa scale would be ut, re, mi, fa, and fa is shown as a flattened note at the top of the little finger. See, right there? Fa, flat. In contrast, if a singer uses G as his tonic note, the third note of the ascent, mi, ut, re, mi, so here's G, so ut, re, mi, is depicted with a natural sign indicating that the singer should be singing C sharp rather than B flat. So this little hand, the Guidonian hand, was helping people remember things. All right. And we will, okay, after you, listen to this one, you should listen to 3 videos, then take quiz number 1, and we will end.